You're here to learn about the power of rocks. What's up, everybody? My name is Charlie Ray, and I'm an EOS implementer. This is leadership development time. Let's do this thing. So, guys, one of the things I want to start off with is kind of going up over three objectives. So, you're here to learn about rocks. What is a rock? Hopefully, to be developed and empowered in your leadership, and then ultimately to be transformed. So, those are my three objectives for you today. In terms of the agenda, context. What is a rock and why does it matter? We're going to look at application. Most importantly, how do you set amazing rocks? And then we'll go into some additional resources. Let's get started. A rock. Okay. Simplest definition. What is a rock? 90-day priority. Let's say it again. A rock is a 90-day priority. If everything's important, nothing's important. And so the concept of the rock is focused on let's do less better. Keep it simple, be clear, and execute. Now, where do rocks come from? They were popularized by Stephen Covey in his rock analogy. So let's look at the rock analogy. All right. What do you prioritize first? When you're thinking about a rock, you're thinking, okay, prioritization. And so the classic example here that Stephen Covey talks about is imagine your life as a jar, and 24 hours is all you got each day, 24 hours. And so if you're like most people, what's the first thing that you do? You check your phone, you're looking at your phone, you're looking at Instagram and social media and Facebook and Twitter and X. You're focused on reactive. Okay, and then you get up and you got to start your day. And so you're starting off reactive instead of being proactive. You're starting your day off with all of these pebbles, these distractions. And then you're like, okay, let me focus on doing a couple bigger things. And so you're starting to drink your coffee and get some breakfast in, maybe get a workout, maybe read the Bible, do something to kind of meditate and think about. And those are your pebbles, and the day's going. And then you're thinking, okay, I need to check these emails and I need to follow up with these people. And then you get to the end of the day and it's 3 o'clock for you, like, oh man, gotta make my sales calls. I gotta make my calls. I gotta step up and do this project. What's that big hairy frog that's just looking at you? It's all ugly. You just have been procrastinating and avoiding it. Finally, 4 o'clock, time to do it. But guess what? The day's starting to end. The rocks don't fit. And so instead, focus on being proactive first. Put the big rocks. What must you get done today? You cannot do it all. What do you absolutely have to get done today? You get that done first, the big, most important rocks, and then you put the pebbles and then the sand and then the water. Everything fits together. So that's the analogy, and it's all about prioritization. This really, really matters because from a 24-hour standpoint, you could organize and prioritize your day in such a way where you're really making a impact on the right things, right? Being effective is focused on the right things. Being efficient is doing things right. So there's a really important distinction there. And so the concept here, how it relates to the EOS world and the EOS concept of the 90-day world is that instead of thinking about your life in 24-hour segments, one day at a time, think about your life in 90 days. 90-day chunks. We call it the 90-day world. So that's a little bit about context about where rocks come from. Also, where do rocks show up? So in the EOS process, they're going to show up in three places. Three places. First, the vision component. Now, this video is not a detailed explanation of what is EOS. Go watch one of my other videos. But ultimately, vision is where you're going and how you're going to get there. And it's 8 simple questions. We call it the VTO, Vision Traction Organizer. Question number 7 on the 8 questions of VTO is, what are your rocks? What are the most important mission critical 90-day priorities that your organization must get done this quarter? So that's the first place it shows up. It also shows up in the traction component, and it's the first tool or discipline. So it's so simple. There's 6 key components within EOS, and each key component has 2 disciplines. If you want to get strong in traction for your organization, focus on these 2 disciplines. The first discipline is rocks. So that's where it shows up. And then the third place it shows up is the weekly level 10 meeting. The reason the EOS process works is because there is a place for everything and everything has a place. There's a timing. There's a method to the madness. And so when you're thinking about where the rocks show up, that's where they show up. All right, so let's look about the EOS model. Let's look at the 8 questions. This is just quickly kind of showing you a recap of what I just described. Question 7, there it is, 90-day priorities. So the 2-page document, again, is just very simple. It's clean. It's a 2-page document that holds everything that's most critical to your organization. And there it is. You have a specific owner who owns each rock. These are the 3 to 7 company rocks. I'll say it again. If everything's important, nothing's important. So the whole idea here of rocks is prioritization. It's all about focus and discipline so that you can execute. The second place it shows up is right there in the discipline, the second discipline or the first discipline of how to get strong in traction. And it's the concept of the 90-day world. Let's talk a little bit about the 90-day world. You and every single employee, every single person that's on your team, whether you're a one-person team or it's just you and a virtual assistant, or you have 1,000 people in your organization, you guys are all focused on working in the business. And for 90 days, everybody is sprinting. You guys are all sprinting as hard as you can. You're working hard. We're sweating. And 90 days comes up and you pause. The 90-day world is to say, wow, let's come up. Let's come up for air. Let's look back. Man, how did we do the past 90 days? You're going to slow down now. You're now going to work on the business. You're going to elevate above the business and work on the business. How did we do the past 90 days? Where are we at? And where do we need to go the next 90 days? And you set new quarterly rocks. So every 90 days, you are moving the company, moving your organization forward. That's what the 90-day world is. You're staying laser focused on the most important priorities for that 90-day period. And that's why it's so powerful, because every 90 days we just seem to lose focus. We get distracted and reactive. We get exhausted. So we need to do a reset. It's just human psychology. In the book Traction by Gino Wickman, the founder and creator of EOS, he talks about this concept, the 90-day world. Every 90 days we lose steam, we lose focus. And so that's why it's let's do a reset, a refocus. Let's get back into what matters most. The third place it shows up is the meeting pulse and within the level 10 meeting. Now, I did a whole video on the level 10 meeting, so feel free to watch that. But essentially, the level 10 meeting is your chance every single week for you and your leadership team, and ultimately for every department to get on the same page to solve the most important issues the right and best way every time. And you're doing this, you're solving these issues at the root level. But before you get into solving issues, you're saying, are we doing what we said we were going to do? So last week we said this was our scorecard, these were our rocks, these were the to-dos to be able to do. Are you following through as a leader to do what you said you're going to do? And so if you're not, well, then we're going to need to drop it down and have some IDS time. So the cool thing about the rock discipline, think about it. Have you ever done this? You set a New Year's resolution and then you forget about it. Okay. When you set a rock with your leadership team, it never goes away until it is complete, or until you end up realizing it actually wasn't the most important thing. And next quarter, we're not going to do that. We're not going to focus on things that don't matter. And so every single week, you're having to get eyeball to eyeball with your fellow leadership team members and say, here's my rock. Remember what we said at the beginning of the quarter? Here's my rock for the greater good of the company. Greater good. It's on track, or it's off track, meaning help. More on that later. So that's what the level 10 meeting does. It forces you to be disciplined and focused and accountable for moving that rock forward to completion. Beautiful, beautiful system. So again, go back and watch the level 10 video, level 10 meeting video to understand more about the level 10 meeting context. So again, we've talked about what a rock is. We've talked about where they come from. Why do they matter? Focus on alignment and accountability. So you're trying to get every single person in the organization 100% on the same page and accountable. So That's where the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer, comes into play, and the level 10 meeting is the glue that holds it together to say, did you do what you said you were going to do? Are you on track? Another key word I really like, these two key words, is discipline and execution. Here's the big picture, okay? This matters because focus, discipline, and execution. When you can get focused, what matters most? What's a rock? A 90-day priority. You get focused, and then you stay focused by being disciplined every day, every week. What you're going to do is execute at a much higher level. Most people can start to get focused, but they can't stay focused. And that's where the level 10 meeting really does help you. So let's talk about some application. How do you set rocks? So ideally, you're doing this with an EOS implementer, okay, a facilitator, teacher, and coach who is trained in the methodology of EOS. You're doing that with an EOS implementer to help guide you, and you're doing this with your leadership team, or if it's a mid-level manager, you're doing it with your department. Okay, so all the salespeople are doing this together with their sales leader and using an EOS implementer, ideally. The goal here is to collaborate, to come together, to collaborate and create 3 to 7 company rocks. Or if you're doing it in a mid-level management, it's 3 to 7 department rocks. So the finance department, what must we get done in the next 90 days? 3 to 7. And the exercise to do is keep, kill, combine. This exercise is explained in detail in multiple books, but the book Traction and the book Get a Grip lays it out very clearly on how to do it. Here's a 30-second version of how to do it. You're going to lay out every single priority that you think the company or the department needs to focus on. Every single leadership team member and the people who are in that meeting, they do that. So you may have 15, 20, 30, 40 rocks, potential rocks. And then you just go one by one and you say, keep, kill it. No, it's not the most important thing to focus on in the next 90 days. Or is it combined? We need to tweak it and combine it with something else. You just narrow it down until you get 3 to 7. Once everybody feels good on that, then you need to establish who's the owner of each of these rocks, and let's make sure it's smart. More on that here in a second. Once the company rocks are good or the departmental rocks are set, then you look at each individual rock. You do the same exercise. Everybody brainstorm. Hey, you individually, for the greater good of the company, for the greater good of this department, what must you get done in the next 90 days? So you're developing company rocks, 3 to 7, and you're developing individual rocks. Now, here's the key. If your company rock, let's say you're the owner of rock number 1, that's your rock as a company rock. That automatically becomes your number 1 individual rock. So now, instead of having 3 to 7, you can have ultimately 3 to 6. You've limited it now to 6 potential new rocks. All right, so hope that's clear. Let's talk about application. When you're facilitating this is really important. Again, use an EOS implementer. We are trained in facilitation, in teaching, in coaching. We are trained in helping you guys set the right rocks and smart. So there's 2 questions that you're doing. Once somebody has established, hey, I'm pretty sure this is the rock I want to do. What you're doing is the 2 thumbs up exercise. And so everybody is looking at you eyeball to eyeball and they're like, hey, Bill, is this the right rock? And everybody's saying, yeah, we think that's the right rock for Bill to be focused on. Yes, yes, yes. For the greater good of the company, that's the right rock. Okay, everybody give a thumbs up. And then guys, is it smart? Is it specific and measurable? Is it attainable? Are you actually going to be able to obtain it? And it is attainable. Is it relevant? Kind of thinking about right rock. Is it relevant? Is it really what you need to be doing this quarter? Or maybe that needs to be happening in Q2 or Q3. And then is it time bound? The time bound is 90 days. So are you going to get it done the next 90 days? You're getting a 2 thumbs up. So here's the question. Just let me test you real quick. You're watching this video. You're trying to understand how to set rocks, how to do those better. Are you doing the 2 thumbs up exercise? Okay, so you are. When you get to the end of the quarter and you're looking back and you're saying, hey guys, we were 3 for 7 on our rocks. And somebody says, gosh, I don't know why Bill was focused on that rock. It seems like it was kind of stupid. Whose fault was that? That would be you, the leadership team, because you gave the approval. You gave the 2 thumbs up stamp of approval. Hey, we think that's the right rock. And so, what this is doing is training you as a leadership team to be strategic. At the moment, at the time, this is what we felt like was most important. And so, you're trying to say, here's where we're going, and then you execute and actually go there. You follow up and follow through. Now, there's another really important piece here, and I already mentioned it. The level 10 meeting is the test of accountability. When you set a rock, let's just say you're doing January 1st, you set the rock for the next 90 days. Every week, you're doing a level 10 meeting. If you have rocks and you don't have a level 10 meeting, you're missing a huge piece in this formula, because the level 10 meeting will force you to have to say every week in front of your peers, open and honest, it's on track. The rock is on track. I'm getting it done. I'm working on it. I'm making good progress. I don't need any help. You guys can trust me. You can have complete confidence in me. I'm going to get the rock done, and I'm working on it. It's looking good. Off track means help. Okay, help. I'm off track. I'm not projected to complete the rock. I need some help. It's way bigger than it's harder than I thought. It's bigger than I thought. I need help. That's what you're having to do. So the weekly level 10 meeting creates and sustains a culture of focus and self accountability. Ultimately, you're trying to create ownership. People want to take ownership. All right, let's look at application 3. So, how do you know what to focus on? When you're thinking about the rocks, this is really, really important. Consider these helpful questions. Guys, what is mission critical? What do we have to get done this quarter and the next 90 days? What is mission critical? What absolutely must get done? Define what done looks like. When you say done, what does that mean? Define it. What else? What else? Okay. In light of the 1 year plan, so we have a 1 year plan. A 1 year plan has 3 to 7 goals. A goal is a 1 year priority. A rock is a 90-day priority. So when we look at the 1 year plan for the next year, this is what we said we want to accomplish. What must we get done this quarter in order to move that ball, to move the needle on the 1 year plan? What must we get done in the next 90 days to show us how to move forward on the 1 year plan? So you literally just take one by one. You can look at the issues list. You can look at the 1 year plan and say, are we on track? Are we setting rocks in light of the 1 year plan? And then for the greater good, please just say it with me. Greater good. One more time. Greater good. For the greater good of our department, for the greater good of the organization. What are the key issues we have to get solved this quarter? So what's a rock? 90-day priority. All right, let's look at one more application. Where do rocks show up with your direct reports and thinking about rolling out EOS to the other departments? It shows up when you do EOS rollout. So if you're watching this video and you're a leadership team member, you're at the highest part of the organization, hopefully you're working with an EOS implementer and you're rolling out EOS one department, one level at a time. And so every person in the organization should have a rock, a 90-day priority to say, this is what I'm focused on, at least one to three that I'm focused on for the next 90 days for the greater good of the company. And then it shows up in the weekly level 10 meetings that they're doing with their departments. And it also shows up in the quarterly conversation. So the quarterly conversation is a specific management practice number 4 of the 5 management practices, which is a teaching tool that we teach called LMA. More on that in a separate video. The quarterly conversation at its core is this. Every 90 days, you are going to go one-on-one with each of your direct reports. So if you have 3 people that report to you, you're going to meet with each of those people every 90 days, one-on-one, so 4 times a year, and you're going to go off-site, get away from the office, get away from the screens, get away, get in person, go get coffee, go eat lunch, and you're going to say these 2 questions. Hey, what's working? What's not working? And you're basically trying to have a conversation. It's what it is. It's a conversation. And you're trying to listen and hear what's working in terms of the 5 company core values. Typically it's 5. What's working in terms of the 5 roles that they have on their seat on the accountability chart. They should know that. Hey, what's working? What's working with their 5 rocks, the 5 rocks that they're focused on? Typically it's 3 to 7, maybe it's 1. So however many rocks they have, what's working well? And you're having a conversation. What support do they need? What assistance do they need? What's working? What's not working? You're listening, you're generating feedback, you're hearing them, you're really hearing them. And then you can flip it and say, hey, what about for me? What's working and not working for me? And so you have an opportunity to give feedback, but first you're generating feedback. Hey, so Bill, here's what I think is working well. No, you start with, hey, Bill, what do you think is working well? And what's not working well in terms of your rocks? Bill, I have something to say as well. Here's what I think you are doing well with your rocks. Here are some areas I think you could grow in with your rocks, and you're having a conversation. It's a two-way dialogue. So again, look for another video on that one. Here is a pro tip. I just want to give you guys a quick pro tip. Have you ever been in a level 10 meeting and somebody says for 12 weeks in a row, on track, on track, on track, and you get to the end of the quarter and they say, done or not done, and they say not done. And you're like, what the heck? You said for 12 weeks in a row you were on track. And they're like, well, yeah, I meant on track, like I thought I could get it done, but I couldn't. So for me, on track was, oh yeah, I can get it done by the due date. Just push it. I can get it done. I can get it done. Doesn't that frustrate you? We talk about making decisions off of data. Let's make a decision off of data, off of facts and figures, instead of, oh, I feel like I'm on track. How do you accurately know if the person is on track or off track? Well, one helpful way to do this is using a milestone. Now, I got this from Randy McDougall, amazing EOS implementer expert. Thank you so much, Randy, for this. He showed this to me and it was very helpful. We do teach this in EOS. It is not pure EOS in terms of mandatory, but it is very helpful, especially in the beginning stages, to say, here's what on track looks like. So a milestone is an effective way to track progress. Think about like a big project. You have milestones, completion dates. So a simple example of this is if the rock is due in 90 days, you could create 2 milestones. Milestone 1 would be what does done look like in 30 days. Milestone 2 could be what does done look like in 60 days. Again, pro tip, this is something that my clients find extremely helpful and they execute better by implementing this. So let's take the visual. Don't procrastinate. When you're here and you're trying to procrastinate, what ends up happening? We set the rocks. So this is when the rocks are set. And then what ends up happening? Well, there's a procrastination curve, okay? You have a ton of procrastination. It goes 11 weeks in a row, and so when Bill, I'm picking on Bill, he has not done a single dang thing on his rock, and so he's got about 1 week to go, and he rushes and rushes and rushes. Oh my gosh, the rocks are due. He doesn't get it done. Okay, so that's the 90-day world. How could you increase your accountability? How would you increase execution? You shorten the due date, shorten the interval. Every week you have your weekly level 10 meeting. We call it the weekly pulsing, right? And then what if you actually did a execution curve, right? So the execution curve is the exact opposite of procrastination. And so here the concept is you are setting a milestone, milestone 1, milestone. So when you're in your level 10 meeting and you're saying, "Hey, I'm on track. I'm on track because I'm almost done with milestone 1, or I'm very close. And then I'm on track later in the 90-day world. I'm on track because I'm almost done with milestone 2." This is a very powerful, helpful tool to help you execute better each 90-day. So one other quick pro tip here. When you think about rocks, okay, I want you to think about using powerful questions to drive clarity. So every single time when you are setting a rock, hopefully you're learning and getting better and smarter and faster from mistakes you made last quarter. And so before you even set rocks, you should be looking at how did we what did we do well with our rocks last quarter? How did we execute well? Where did we fall short? How can we grow and get better? What are growth edges to consider? And so when you're thinking about rocks, you're taking the context of every quarter we set rocks and we check at the end of the quarter to see if we completed them. The goal is to get to 80%. That's the standard at EOS. 80% quarter after quarter after quarter, we're setting and completing our rocks. And so before you set new rocks, you must check for progress and check to see what did we do well, how can we improve. Me as an individual, what about we, me and we, what about the leadership team? How did the whole company do? So it's just taking time to slow down before you speed up. And then the concept here of the Rock Pro tip set is to basically say, okay, you know what else would be super helpful is if we actually use some questions to clarify exactly what's going on. One of the other things that's super important is to make sure that as you are setting rocks, you're actually taking time to slow down and ask powerful questions. So it's really, really important that you as a leadership team are asking these types of questions. Think about, hey guys, what are some potential obstacles that are coming up, right? What are some potential barriers that that might prevent us from making progress? And then how can we overcome these obstacles? Use what we call rock clarifiers. This is something I got from adapted from one of my EOS clients. Again, pro tip. What does done look like? How would you measure success? Okay. What would make you smile ear to ear at the end of 90 days? What would just frustrate you, make you angry, annoyed, aggravated? What will this cost you in terms of the budget? And then who are the key players that you want to make sure are involved in this? Those are clarifying questions that will help you set and achieve better rocks. All right, guys, I just wanted to go over one more tool here that I thought would be super helpful. So we call this the compartmentalization tool. And ultimately here, what we're talking about is there's a compartment for everything, right? And so when you're thinking about a 7-day priority, that's a to-do, right? A 7-day priority is a to-do. A 90-day priority is a rock. And a 1-year priority is a goal. Everything else falls into your issues list. And so if you don't like the word issue, just think, okay, what would be another way to say it? Maybe problem or opportunity to grab or an idea, right? And so there's a short-term issue, which is where you're going to solve it every single week in your level 10 meeting. That's where it goes. And then there's long-term issues. Those are 90 days plus. You solve those every quarter. So the compartmentalization tool is extremely helpful. All right, guys, if you're not using a software to simplify and streamline how to run on EOS and ultimately how to monitor your rocks and how to create them, I would highly encourage you to reach out to me, or you can go to go.90.io/Charlie Ray for a free 30-day trial. You can scan this QR code. Really appreciate your time today. This was the Leadership Development Time and the Power of Rocks. My name is Charlie Ray. Feel free to reach out to me. There's my phone number, my email. Thank you for your time. May God bless you, and stay focused, stay disciplined, and hopefully you will be able to execute much better on your rocks from this video. All right, may God bless. See ya.